Hey guys, and welcome to the very first episode of Mysteries with SethSquatch. Today we're going to look into a missing persons case that dates back to 1969 and happened in the Great Smoky Mountains on the Appalachian Trail. The Martins took this yearly camping trip every single year on Father's Day weekend, so the terrain, the trails, nothing was unfamiliar to them. It was Dennis along with his father William, his grandpa Clyde, and his older brother Douglas. Now the first night they stayed at Russell Field Shelter. The second morning they wake up and they take a 2-mile hike to Spence Field. Now, when they get to Spence Field, there's already another family there, which ironically, they had the same last name as them, the Martins. They also had 2 young boys as well. The parents agreed to let the boys play, and the parents talked and went about their day. As the day went on, the kids got an idea of, well, we're going to sneak up and scare the parents. So Douglas, knowing that Dennis was wearing a bright red T-shirt that day, and was afraid that the parents were going to know where they were at and give up their spot where they were hiding, they sent Dennis on their own. So Douglas took the two other boys and they went south while Dennis was headed north. Now their plan was to come up and sneak up on the parents on each side and jump out and scare them. The parents, they watched what was happening. They watched them devise the plan. They watched them split up. William, Dennis's father, said he watched Dennis run behind a bush as he was easily seen, obviously, with the bright red T-shirt. As they got closer to where the boys were hiding, they yelled out and said, time to come out and everything like that. Well, Douglas and the 2 boys came out while Dennis did not. Now, Dennis's father waited 3 to 5 minutes before checking up on Dennis, and Dennis was not there. And I just want to point out one fact that Dennis's father does state that Dennis was in a special education class in his school. He was also a year or 2 behind his mental age. He was also a quiet boy who would not call out, and he would answer to strangers, though. When William arrived at the bush and there was no sign of Dennis, it sent instant panic into him. The whole family, they all started calling out, hoping that Dennis may hear them or he would call back. Dennis's father took a 1-mile sprint west in hopes that maybe he can come across Dennis at some point. Well, he returned to Spence Field and there was still no sign, nothing heard or anything of Dennis. Dennis's father runs back to Russell Field Shelter where they had stayed the night before, maybe in hopes that Dennis made his way there. He gets there, there's no sign of him. He returns back to Spence Field again. The grandpa, Clyde, he goes down to Cades Cove where the ranger station was located. He gets down. Now, this disappearance happened around 4:30 p.m., and Clyde did not reach Cades Cove until about 8:30 to inform the rangers of what had happened. So the Rangers take Clyde back up the mountain. They get back to Spence Field. They get William there, and they calm everyone down, and they start going over what had happened. Along the way back, they were questioning hikers, fishermen, if anybody has ever seen or heard anything, and everything came up inconclusive. After the Rangers got all the facts of what was happening, they already had it scheduled that they would have more manpower in the morning to come help with the search. The Rangers and the Martin family continued the search throughout the night. Heavy rainfalls moved in. It was about 2.5 to 3 inches of rain. Reports of the streams were roaring. So, could easily be, if a small body of a child like that could easily be swept away. The next morning, there was 30 Boy Scouts along with other, searchers. There was Rangers. They started their search and they started a drainage search. Now that was where all the streams and everything they all run to, on all these trails. They were searching everywhere that maybe Dennis may have been swept up because of the storm. Started a grid search pattern, and they were just checking off places, as one section at a time as they were going. They were getting more and more people involved. They brought in the use of dogs, but they were rendered useless because they could not pick up on a scent, could not pick up on anything. And they blamed the storm for the inability of the dogs to pick up on basically anything that could lead to Dennis. There were Green Berets that were even brought in. They had their own telecoms station set up and everything like that. They had 2 heliports set up, one at Russell Field, one at Spence Field. Now, they did have 4 helicopters at one point, but only 2 of them were for actually searching. The other 2 were just for transporting people from area to area. The rain continued throughout the search. It was making the search efforts, it was just making the terrain very hard to navigate through. A couple days into the search, they did find a set of prints. They found a Oxford-style print and a barefoot print. Now, Dennis was wearing Oxford shoes at the time of his disappearance, and They measured it and it was the size of a small child, but they kind of disclassified it as maybe one of the Boy Scouts. So they really didn't look any further into it because the prints they ended at a stream and that was it. And as they go, they're getting more special forces people in. The state police had brought in a fixed U-10 fixed wing aircraft, and it had a loudspeaker available with it. The point of that was to have his father be flown around and call out for Dennis and maybe search in the hopes of finding him or having him call out so people could hear him. That U-10 plane landed. The rear landing gear was struck by a rock, rendering it, useless. By the time they fixed it, it needed to return back to base, so William was never able to use its full potential. They also tried it with a helicopter with a loudspeaker attached, and they found that, the engine was way too loud to even overhear the loudspeaker in the first place, so that was also rendered useless. As the days went on, there were more and more people showing up. More and more special forces. There was 15 senior forestry seniors joined, trackers and all sorts. The trackers said that they weren't able to do their job the best that they could have because it was so hard with how many people have already walked through where Dennis may have already been. It was hard to track and pick up what could be Dennis, what could be other people, what could be animals. And along with the rain, heavy rainfall and everything else, the thick fog, these helicopters sometimes weren't even able to start searching till about 11 because of the thick fog that covered the area. It just really made the search a lot more harder for everybody. As time went on, the Martins finally decided to put up a reward for Dennis. William was kind of convinced that maybe someone had kidnapped his son, and it's not really that unlikely that it could have happened. And there's weird that there's no trace other than those shoes, but they did not follow up on them. Miss Schwaller of Linden, Michigan, calls in, and she states that she has a dream, and she knows where this boy is because some of these dreams have come true before for her. They said that the body would be found 5 miles southwest from where he was last seen, and he would be located on a stream by a waterfall surrounded by white pines. Now, they sent special forces in to search that area, and the search came up inconclusive. No sign, nothing of Dennis. As the search went on, obviously less and less people were joining the search efforts, and eventually it just kind of dissolved into an unsolved case, really. There was 1,400 people at one point involved in the search almost a week later, and there was no sign of nothing. They never found anything of Dennis. There are some theories behind of what could have happened to him. The first theory is obviously the nature's elements got to him, and just weird that you would not find a single trace. Even after all these years, no one's found anything. I feel like they should have maybe looked into the footprints a little more. I know they ended at a stream, but I know that the stream ran into a lake, and I'm not sure if that lake was ever searched. The theory is the bears got him. There were bears in there, black bears in the area, and that he had been carried off by an animal. Now there is another one of Harold Key. He and his son were hiking in the same area, about 5 miles from where Dennis was last seen. That same day that Dennis went reported missing, he remembers hearing an enormous, sickening scream in the woods. And then he says he has spotted a unkept, large, dirty man that was running up the hill towards where the scream came from. Said he played it off as maybe it was a moonshiner or something like that. He didn't know. But his son said that it looked more like a bear. So I'm not really sure what it could have been that they really saw or what the scream could have been or anything like that. But it was the same day that Dennis went missing in about the same area. There was a report that didn't happen until 1985 of a man that came out and finally said that he was illegally ginseng hunting in the area and where he came across the remains of what looked to be a small child. When he came out finally about that, people went back and searched, and obviously the search came up inconclusive again. So what happened to Dennis Martin, I don't think we'll ever really fully know. It's very possible that maybe he could have been abducted. it's very possible that maybe the elements could have gotten him as well. I really think that maybe if they would have followed up more on those footprints and not just dismissed it as a Boy Scout, there might have been more leads to what could have really happened. So this is basically, you can draw your own conclusion of what has happened. It's a very sad case of a boy that was never seen again. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Comment below if you would like to hear anything else for me to cover. I will be coming out with more videos soon as I keep working on them and keep researching. Stay mysterious.